to Victoria? Is that something you can will do?
No, once a person's not in custody, if they haven't been charged, they're not subject to bail conditions, they are free to go. I have been very clear on the fact that we will monitor these men whilst they're in New South Wales, and we'll work closely with Victorian and other Commonwealth law enforcement partners.
Commissioner, just a question on the licence for Sajid Akram. So you said the other day, applied for it in 2020, eventually it was granted in 2023. Our sources say that's a really unusual length of time, 3 years between application and granting. Can you fill us in on that 3-year gap? Was it denied at a point and he appealed it? Were there representations made on his part saying he was a suitable person to hold it? Why the 3-year gap?
I can't provide further information on that at the moment. I can say factually he applied in 2020. By the time the assessment was conducted and he was issued a licence, it was 2023.
How did we get evidence they were
Has New South Wales Police dropped the ball with its relationship with Sydney's Muslim community?
No, I don't believe that's the case at all. I indicated before we have a very strong relationship with all communities. Each of my police area commands, each of my police districts work directly with all faiths. What's important is the community need to work together. This is about saying all communities, what we saw on Sunday is unacceptable. No part of community wants to justify what took place in there. We work strongly with all members of the community. We want the community safe, but I want all communities to feel safe.
How did you guys get evidence they were...
How did you form the judgment that the justification no longer exists to hold these 7 men? Does that mean they're not an imminent threat, and how are you able to rule that out?
That means, according to law, we don't believe that we have sufficient evidence to detain the men at this stage.
How did you get evidence they were heading to Bondi?
Sorry?
How did you get evidence they were heading to Bondi? Was it through their mobile phones, seized, online communication?
As I said earlier, we had information that the men may attend Bondi as one of a number of locations. We do not know the purpose for that.
How long were they supposed to be in New South Wales?
That's not a question I can...
Commissioner, what law enforcement partners were involved, and was ASIO investigating one of the arrested?
I'm not prepared to comment on that at the moment. Obviously, the information we receive comes from a number of partners. We work closely with all law enforcement partners to ensure that we keep the community safe.
When was the assessment done on Mr Akram's gun licence specifically? Do you have any information on that?
No, I don't have that detail in front of me. It was applied for in 2020, issued in 2023.
Do you have any further information on when he purchased the gun, the permits to acquire? When were they purchased?
I don't have that information.
Commissioner, were authorities aware prior to the Bondi attack that Sajid Akram had bought 3 identical shotguns over 18 months? And if so, why wasn't this a concern?
Because they were appropriate to be held by the licence class that he had, so absolutely the Firearms Registry would have been aware, because someone has to provide a permit to acquire before they can acquire a firearm.
He's buying 2 identical shotguns within 2 months. Is that something that would usually be flagged?
I can't really comment on that. A number of people purchase firearms for a range of reasons that are in accordance with their licence.
Okay, maybe one more and then we'll...
The Prime Minister has just announced a national buyback scheme. Is there work happening in New South Wales Police to introduce that buyback scheme? Can you maybe tell us a bit about the role New South Wales Police will provide in that scheme?
That'll be something we work very closely with government. The decision for a buyback scheme is one for government. As a police agency, we will work closely with government to ensure that that is government's will. We'll undertake it.
All right,
thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Commissioner. Obviously, as a result of the devastating events of last Sunday, the New South Wales government, having worked with the Jewish community of this state, has designated that Sunday will be a day of national reflection to honour the victims of the terrorist attack at Bondi Beach, and also to stand in solidarity with the Jewish community of our country, but in particular of our state here in New South Wales. So on Sunday, flags on Australian and New South Wales government buildings will be flown at half-mast as a mark of respect for the lives lost and the shared sense of grief right across the country. Buildings will be lit up in yellow for the evening. Lights will beam into the sky from Bondi Pavilion. The New South Wales government will support Jewish leaders to hold a community memorial event, and a shareable candle image will be used on social media. It's a day of reflection and a pause for the terrible events, the shocking crimes that occurred last Sunday, and a show of national respect for those that have lost their lives. Can I also say that I completely acknowledge that there is a genuine desire to have a mass coming together of all groups in Australia to reflect on and remember the lives that are lost, and to stand in solidarity with the Jewish community of this state and this city. We're going to nominate a date in the future, I don't have that date today, where members of the public can come together for a major public memorial. We have to do that in concert with the Jewish Board of Deputies and Jewish leaders, rabbis. It's very important, of course, that they nominate the date, that they let us know when the appropriate time is to have that event. And the truth of the matter is that we want as many people there as possible, including those that are currently in hospital or caring for loved ones or are in the process of burying loved ones. And we want them to be part or have the opportunity to be a part of this memorial. So that's going to take a number of weeks. It won't be held before Christmas. I want to let the public know, I know there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that want to stand and show solidarity with the Jewish community of our city. We've just got to get that date together and make it happen. Today I'm standing with the Attorney General and the Police Minister to nominate a series of reforms that we'll introduce to the New South Wales Parliament on Monday in a few days' time. Firstly, the government will act to ensure that we restrict the authorisation of public assemblies during high-risk times, like when there is a terrorist event in New South Wales. When a terrorist incident is formally declared under the Terrorism Police Powers Act, the Police Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner of Police, with the agreement of the Minister for Police, will be able to declare a specific area where the public assemblies are restricted for a period of time. A public assembly restriction declaration. That might be any part of the state or all over the state. No public assemblies in the designated area will be able to be authorised, including by a court. Police will have access to existing powers to move people on where their behaviour presents or causes harassment or intimidation or obstructs traffic. We hope this will be a strong signal to the community that assemblies in public spaces in a designated area are unsafe or discouraged during a period of mourning or division or terrorism. And these measures, we believe, are targeted. Now, just to give you the specifics of it, a declaration must be called within 14 days of a terrorism designation being reached under the Police Powers Act. It will then be in order for 14 days, but can be extended for a further 14 days up to a period of 3 months. And this is obviously extraordinary powers not seen before in any jurisdiction in the country. We anticipate that the Police Minister and the Police Commissioner will designate that order once the legislation has passed the New South Wales Parliament, so as the government can deliver on our promise and I think the public's expectation that we can have a summer of calm rather than one of division and hatred and protest. These are important changes, but they're necessary, we believe, to live up to the number one priority of any government in office, the number one priority for any political leader, any government or any parliament, and that is to protect its citizens. Secondly, the New South Wales Government will introduce the toughest gun law reforms in the country. The government will introduce a bill to impose a cap of 4 firearms per individual with strict exemptions for primary producers and sporting shooters. Will reclassify straight, pull, pump, action, button, lever, release firearms into Category C, limiting their access primarily to farmers, agriculture, primary producers. Will reduce magazine capacities for Category A and B firearms to a maximum of 5 to 10 rounds from a current unlimited capacity. Will introduce a complete ban on firearms that can use belt-fed magazines, and we will remove the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal review pathway once a designation has been made that the licence should be taken. The New South Wales Government will also introduce legislation to ban ISIS flags in New South Wales to ensure that they're not used as part of demented terrorist organisation propaganda. Now, these are extraordinary measures. I want to make it clear that they're not the end of the measures. My government, the Cabinet Office, the Attorney General and the Police Minister have worked very hard in a short period of time to craft an emergency set of legislative reforms to introduce in the Parliament. but we don't believe that these are all of the answers to fulfil our responsibility to keep the public safe and to fight anti-Semitism in the community and hate speech and racism in the community. So we'll be careful about our next steps when Parliament resumes, but you can expect further reform and further legislative change until we believe that we're in a position where we're confronting this urgent and pressing threat to our community. And I ask who'd like to go first? Yazzie.
Thank you, Premier. As the Premier has just said, today we're announcing the toughest firearms reforms in a generation. They will be introduced into the Parliament on Monday. These reforms are about one thing: keeping the people of New South Wales safe. Following the horrific anti-Semitic terror attacks at Bondi, it is clear we must act decisively to reduce risk and to close the gaps in our gun laws. We are acting quickly because the circumstances demand it, but responsibly. People need to remember, owning a gun is a privilege. It is not a right. And that privilege must never, ever outweigh community safety. These reforms ensure there is no ambiguity when it comes to public safety. They strengthen oversight, reduce the availability of high-risk firearms, and give the police the tools that they need to intervene as early as possible. We will be restricting access to high-risk weapons and components, including straight pull and button release firearms, magazine capacity, and limiting the number of firearms individuals can have. We'll be tightening licensing requirements with more frequent renewables and stronger identity checks. Strengthening police powers by removing the NCAT loophole that can expose sensitive intelligence. We will increase the oversight of gun use, including mandatory gun club membership and strong storage inspections. Police already have the ability to suspend or revoke licences where there is a risk, but too often these decisions have been overturned. By removing NCAT on an appeal pathway, police will be able to rely on intelligence without fear of it being exposed. These changes give police greater confidence to act early and to act decisively and to keep people safe. Under these reforms, most recreational shooters will be limited to 4 firearms, and primary producers and sports and target shooters will be allowed up to 10 firearms, recognising legitimate work and sporting needs. Recategorising straight pull and button release firearms so they are harder to obtain, introducing magazine capacity limits where currently there are absolutely none, and we will look at digitising the ammunition register. These measures help to reduce mass harm. Recreational gun users will be required to be a member of a gun club. Gun clubs and ranges will be registered on the online Gun Safe portal that is managed by the Firearms Registry of the New South Wales Police. This will improve transparency and oversight. Safe storage inspections will now occur before a firearm is acquired, not after. These changes close gaps and ensures guns are stored responsibly from day one. We recognise there are many law-abiding, responsible firearms owners in this state. These reforms are not about targeting those people. They are about stronger checks, clearer rules and better oversight so that firearms do not fall into the wrong hands. Where people are required to surrender firearms due to the new limits, a buyback scheme will be established with the federal government, a 50-50 cost share, alongside the existing permanent amnesty.
Thanks, Minister. As the Premier said, we'll be introducing unprecedented laws on Monday in relation to public gatherings. I just want to make it clear, we don't have the power, the government doesn't have the power to declare the streets of New South Wales or any parts of them a no-go zone. We don't have the power to do that. The Premier has said very clearly that he wants, and we all agree, this summer to be a summer of healing, not of protest and not of division. These laws apply all over New South Wales. It will enable the Police Commissioner or Deputy Commissioner in concurrence with the Minister to declare an area one where no Form 1s can be approved. That means there will be no authorised public assemblies. So they're not targeted, importantly, at any person, any group, any individual, any ideology, any community. They are based purely on public safety. So the Commissioner and the Minister for Police will be able to declare these areas where they fear that a public assembly is likely to cause a reasonable person to fear harassment, intimidation or violence, or to fear for their safety or pose a risk to community safety. They can be made for 14 days, periods, and they can be extended, and the areas can be amended as well. As I say, this is not to shut any one group out or to tell them to stay at home. This is based on public safety and public safety alone.
Thanks, Mick.
In addition to that, as the Premier said, we will be moving to ban the public display of the Islamic flag. Of Islamic State. They are murderous barbarians. There is no legitimate purpose for displaying an Islamic State or ISIS flag in New South Wales except to cause fear and intimidation and insult. And those days are over. But this will not be the end of it. We'll talk to our Commonwealth counterparts and to community groups, and if we need to declare other symbols and other flags prohibited, we will. One of the things I would be calling on fellow MPs to do this week in the face of these reforms that have been cobbled together in an emergency response is to be multi-partisan. This is not the time for political one-upmanship. It's not the time for grandstanding. We don't have the numbers in either House of Parliament, so we'll be relying on cooperation and goodwill to get these laws through to keep the people of New South Wales safe, particularly friends in the Jewish community.
Thanks, Mick. Happy to take questions.
James. Why would you ban the Islamic State flag but not the flag of Hamas, for example?
Yeah, we believe that under existing legislation they are a terrorist organisation and therefore their symbols are already prohibited. Yeah, that's right. I want to make it clear this isn't the end of legislative change. We're taking feedback from law enforcement, the Attorney General, think tanks, academics. We believe that this will be an iterative change, and this isn't the end of change. You can expect even further iterations to the legislation that we present to Parliament, but this is where it's up to today, and we're up against the clock here because we need to present the bill as it currently stands to the opposition, to the crossbench. As Michael correctly points out, we're in minority. We need to get this passed with the help of other political parties, otherwise it will not pass.
The opposition announced today that they're going to use next week to revive some of their bills, for example, their protest legislation, which would make protesters pay police to hold more than 3 protests. What's your response to that announcement?
Yeah, look, I think it's good that ideas are being proposed about keeping the community safe. I mean, I think there's a general agreement clearly from the opposition that the temperature has been way too high. I mean, my view about these protests has been that it is unleashing forces in our community that are not being contained. When you see people marching and showing violent, bloody images, images of death and destruction, it's unleashing something in our community that the organisers of the protest can't contain. And the truth of the matter is, we can't risk another mass demonstration on that scale in New South Wales. The implications can be seen, in my view, on Sunday. Not just on Sunday, but anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic graffiti and arson attacks through our community over the last 2 years. So we need to take action. Now, relating to your specific question, I think it's good that ideas are being pushed forward. I'm not going to act on that specific one today, and there's a reason for it. I've got clear advice, is that it breaches the Commonwealth Constitution. And whilst we are rushing, I don't think there's any doubt about it, to introduce legislation to pass in the Parliament, we also have to make sure we get it right and that it withstands a High Court challenge, because the worst situation we could be in today is if the Parliament stands at one with a clear and unambiguous message around public protest during a time of terrorism and a national emergency, and then it gets knocked over by the court within a couple of days. That would be terrible. Paul?
When I spoke to Kelly Sloan earlier in the week, she criticised the perceived lack of consistency to have a gun crackdown on the one hand and to have cooperated with the shooters, farmers, fishers on their hunting bill on the other. Will the $7.9 million allocated for the Conservation Hunting Authority come out of the New South Wales budget? And do you regret cooperating with the shooters on that bill?
Well, look, first of all, we were never going to loosen firearm legislation. But can I just say, there is a very different world between where we are today and where we were before Sunday. We have to change. We all have to change. What we had done is not working. The number one responsibility of any government is to protect its citizens, and